Hey everybody, welcome to J Stern Designs. I really feel like I need to work on my expectation levels because every day I get up and I say, I'm gonna get this done, this done, this done, this done, this done, and then it turns out I only get like the first two things done. I don't know what happened. Either I'm making my list too long or I'm losing some of my gusto, but I didn't get a chance to work on my ponte knit jeans because I've been working on finishing the cuddle quilt I started on the weekend. And I love working on these little projects because, you know, it gives me a chance to be creative and have fun and quilt and do things that I love to do in addition to all the fitting, construction, and, you know, garment sewing things I do. So, you know, I'm enjoying this and I'm going to finish it today and it's going to be done. But I have a few more tips for working with Cuddle Fleece that I want to share with you. First of all, I know I talked about how much of a mess it makes when you cut into it, and I just want to show you in front of me. I finished the quilt and I wanted to trim all of the edges even. I ended up having to trim about a ½ inch off of my outer border to get everything to line up all the way around. I consider that successful for me. So all my points match on my squares in the corners, and I just needed to trim it up a little bit to get everything even. But you'll notice here's my trimmed pieces and you can see what a mess they are. And by the time I got done cutting 4 sides, my whole outfit was covered with lint. So I decided what I was going to do is wash and dry the quilt after I basted the edges together. So let me show you how nice those look after it's come out of the dryer. So, all right, so here's my quilt. You can see how cute it is. I'm absolutely in love with it, and it washed up beautifully. I embroidered on the corner Madison Lorraine and her date and her height and weight because that's what her dad wanted. So that's all done. And you can see that even though I'm working with a very plush fabric, you can clearly see the detail of this embroidery. And the reason why is I used a piece of wash away stabilizer. It looks like this. This is like a super solvy kind of stabilizer. It's actually pretty old and it's kind of crispy because I'm not keeping it in an airtight bag, but it works really, really well. So just a little tip on that. If you put the wash away stabilizer on top, then even if you work with something really, you know, that has a big nap like this fleece, you can still read the embroidery. And it's a pretty small, I mean, it's less than a ½ inch high in places. I mean, I think those small letters are, you know, about a ¼ inch or even a little bit less. So that's my tip for embroidering on this kind of fleece. And then you can see that my edges have absolutely no lint. I took the time to go around and sew around the border about a ¼ inch away. That way I don't have to worry about anything flipping up. So everything's laying nice. All the seams that were sewn, I sewed through all the layers and then flipped it back down. So you can see that that looks nice. If you're working with this kind of fleece and you're doing a flip and go kind of construction, you need to use adhesive spray. And I do want to say I tried a few other brands on the market and it was not sticking reliably, and I actually had to take out my beginning border because it started to slide and got all puckered. What I ended up using, and what I feel is probably the best product on the market, is this 505 spray adhesive. I was so happy that I could find it at Joann Fabrics in the quilting department. So it wasn't with the embroidery and stabilizer supplies on that area of the store. It was in the quilting area. So if you're looking for this and you have a local Joann's, they do carry it. I really feel like it's the only adhesive spray I will ever use because really it's the most reliable. So that's my tip for using adhesive spray to hold the pieces down after you flip them, you know, after you sew them and then flip them down. I've washed this and I'm gonna smell it, and just to show you there's absolutely no odor left from the spray in this quilt. And I only washed it once, and that's kind of important because I'm making it for a baby. So I feel like it washes out really well. I just did it on a 40-minute cycle. The one thing I really noticed when I was sewing this quilt together is that this fleece is really hard to sew across the grain with the stretch, and it's very easy to sew with the lengthwise grain. And I was able to do both directions without using a walking foot, but in hindsight, I think I could have done it quicker with a little less sort of help along the crosswise grain if I had used a walking foot. So I want to recommend using a walking foot when you sew this fabric. And I think what I want to do is I just want to give you a quick demo to show you what I mean. This is a piece of Cuddle Fleece that's a scrap that I have left over, and you can see it stretches in this long direction. So just to make it a really quick, simple demo, I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to show you what it's like to sew the short way, which would be the lengthwise grain. I'm going to show you how easy that is without much effort or worry, and then I'm going to show you how it is to sew across the stretchwise grain. So I'll put one here, and I'm just going to put 2 pins in the lengthwise direction. I'm just going to show you how easy that is. All right, so I've just got a regular standard presser foot on my machine, nothing fancy, and I'm going to put the fabric under the presser foot, and I'm just going to stitch down. I'm going to show you how easy it is. All right, so see how I can stitch and nothing is sliding, it's just stitching really nicely. It's not sliding away from each other either. It's just really easy. Okay. And so notice when I get to the end, nothing slipped. It still matches. Okay, so that's the lengthwise grain. All right, now what I want to do is show you how it is when I'm trying to sew across the crosswise grain, or in this case, it's also with the stretch of the fabric. So I'm going to show you that. Okay, so part of what it wants to do when you're sewing across the cross grain is it wants to shift so that the edges don't match anymore. So that's one of the challenges. And then the other challenge is it pushes the top layer as it goes under the presser foot. It's not feeding as fast as the bottom layer. So what ends up happening is you end up having, making little pleats in the fabric. So the way I keep that from happening is I'm going to use either a stiletto or a screwdriver, and I'm just going to hold it right here on the edge as I sew. And I'm also going to push it forward a little bit like that with the screwdriver. And what that's going to do is it's going to help me sort of even up the fact that I don't have a walking foot on. So what you want to do when you're going across the grain is help the top layer, ideally put your walking foot on, but if you don't have a walking foot, you can help the top layer using a stiletto or use your screwdriver or use something that you have to sort of nudge it forward and also hold the 2 raw edges together. After I finish this quilt, it's going to be punty knit jean time. I've fixed the pattern to make the changes that I saw in my first muslin, and I'm going to be working on that tomorrow, and I'll have that all ready to go on Thursday. And I'm hoping to be able to push publish button before I leave to go help my mother, because I'm going to spend the day sewing with her to make projects for the her holiday church fair. So I'm going to do like a blitz sewing project with her on Thursday, but I will have my quick tip finished as well. That's my quick tip for today. If you have any questions about working with Cuddle Fleece, Minky, any of these sort of plush fabrics, please feel free to either post them below or visit my blog at J Stern Designs. And I hope that you have a great day, and I will see you for a quick tip Thursday in a couple days.